If you're on my mailing list, you've already been alerted to this article, but it's linked down below. And I wanted to let you know as well. We're going to walk through this article. Someone bought 30 WordPress plugins and planted a backdoor in all of them. This article is by Austin Ginder, who runs Anchor Hosting. He is an incredibly smart individual, and so mad props to him on doing this exceptional forensic analysis on what he found. This isn't the first time that I, in my career in WordPress security, have seen someone buy plugins planting backdoors and malicious content within them. But let's take a look at what happened with Austin's experience here. So last week, he wrote about another incident where he found a supply chain attack on a WordPress plugin. That one was called Widget Logic, acquired by a new owner and then turned into something malicious. And now it's happening again with over 30 plugins compromised, 25 of which were closed by WordPress.org. The interesting thing that we'll get into is that the backdoor was dormant, maintaining persistence for 8 months. So let's walk through the entire situation. So Ricky from Improve and Grow had emailed him about an alert he saw in the WordPress dashboard for a client site. That notice was from the plugins team, warning of a plugin called Countdown Timer Ultimate and that it contained code that could allow unauthorized third-party access. So he ran a full security audit on the site. The plugin itself was already force updated by WordPress.org to a new version, which was supposed to clean things up. However, there was still malicious code that was left on the site. The malware was hiding in the WP config file. The plugin that had changed ownership had a module called WPOS Analytics, and it was phoning home to analytics.essentialplugin.com. There, it was downloading a backdoor file, which was named WP Comments Posts, which was designed to look like the core file WP Comments Post, and that file was then used to inject a massive block of PHP into the WP config file for the site. The injected code was sophisticated. It was fetching spam links, redirects, and fake pages from a command and control server. It was only showing those spam links, redirects, and fake pages to GoogleBot, making it invisible on the front end to site owners. And it was resolving its C2 meaning command and control, domain through an Ethereum smart contract. So it was querying public blockchain RPC endpoints. So even if you said, hey, go take down this malicious domain, it really wouldn't stop this campaign because the attacker could update the Ethereum smart contract at any time to point to a new domain. So the forced update that the plugins team did not clean up the WP config files. So it neutralized the phone home mechanism, but it didn't touch the WP config. So the SEO spam injection was still actively serving hidden content to Googlebot. So he took a look at when it actually happened. He looked at all of the backups for the site that he was looking at here, and he saw that on April 7th, that is when the WP config file had increased in size. So it was within a 6-hour, 44-minute window. But the interesting thing was this backdoor was planted 8 months before it was ever activated. So he looked back through the plugin's history through over 900 quick save snapshots, and the plugin had been on the site since January 2019. The WPOS Analytics module was always there, functioning as a legitimate analytics opt-in system for years. But on August 8th, 2025, that's when the new version came out, adding 191 lines of code, including a PHP deserialization backdoor. So the class admin file grew from 473 lines to 664 lines, and it introduced 3 things, which you can go read about on the link down below. That is textbook arbitrary function call. The remote server controls the function name, the arguments, everything, and it sat dormant for 8 months before being activated on April 5th through 6th. So the plugin was actually sold on Flippa. The original plugin was built by an Indian-based team operating as WP Online Support. They started around 2015. They later rebranded to Essential Plugin and grew their portfolio to 30 plus free plugins with premium versions. By late 2024, revenue had declined and they listed the entire business on Flippa. A buyer identified only as Chris, with a background in SEO, crypto, and online gambling, purchased everything for 6 figures. They even published a case study on Flippa about this sale in July of 2025. So he's got a whole timeline of what happened here. You can look at that on the link below. And then he's got a list here of all of the plugins that WordPress.org closed on a single day, all from Essential Plugins. There were at least 25 plugins all on the same day. Here's the ones that he confirmed. So go take a look at this. If you're using any of these plugins, I would seriously consider whether or not you might want to find an alternative. The author's search on WordPress.org, 0 results, permanently closed plugins. And if you go to analytics.essentialplugin.com now, that endpoint returns message closed. And Austin notes this has happened before. In 2017, a buyer using the alias Daily TS purchased Display Widgets plugin with 200,000 installs for $15,000 and injected payday loan spam. And in my own experience, I knew of at least one other situation where a very large plugin, actually a few of them, were bought by a guy named Mason Soiza, and he did about the same thing, payday loan spam in the sites that were using those plugins. The Essential Plugins case is the same type of thing, but it's just a larger scale. Hundreds of thousands of active installations with a legitimate history as an 8-year-old business, but it was sold through a public marketplace, weaponized within months. So he patched all of the plugins that he has within the sites that he hosts at Anchor Hosting. And he's got some details here of what you can do if you want to patch that code base. I would honestly take a look at replacing the code base with something that is being actively maintained. And also, of course, check your WP config files to take a look at what is going on there if you are using any of the Essential Plugins code base. He also has a comment here about the trust problem with WordPress plugin marketplace, with 2 supply chain attacks in 2 weeks, both following the same pattern, and that all of this was publicly done. The listing on Flippa was public, the buyer's background was public, and yet the acquisition sailed through without any review from WordPress.org. Part of the problem is right now, as the time of recording this, WordPress.org has no mechanism to flag or review plugin ownership transfers. There's no change of control notification to users, and no way for anybody who's using any of these plugins to know that there might have been a problem. So this code stayed lying in wait, maintaining its persistence for 8 months. Of course, I have my own thoughts about all of this. With all of the new code being developed by AI, with all of the uncertainty in the WordPress space, I think we're going to see a lot more plugin authors looking to cash out of the plugins that they have on the repo. As such, it becomes incredibly important for anyone who's using WordPress, and of course you're probably using many plugins, to really get to know the developers of the plugins in which you have placed your trust. Know who they are, know if they are selling those plugins, and it's up to us to really investigate those that we have a software relationship with. If plugins change hands, so many things can happen. If private equity buys a plugin or a theme, they can do whatever they want, and they often don't have users as primary in their motivations. Usually it's just the bottom line. When we use software, it's all about trust. I have another article that I'll link below from my website about dependency in software and some thoughts that you might want to consider as you use software, whether it's for accounting or within your WordPress site. All of the software that we use is based on trust. And if trust is broken, as it is in cases like this, It's up to us to protect ourselves. I'm Kathy Zant, and if you want to get notified when I see news in the WordPress space or in software, or I'm really watching AI and what's happening there a lot, get on my newsletter. The link for that is down below as well. Thanks for being here.